She told me there was a shooter.
We do have some new information from CNN's Susan Candiotti about guns that Lanza had, and she is quoting a law enforcement official as saying that he had access to more guns than the 3 guns that were recovered. She is quoting a source that said the police recovered 3 additional guns, and this was elsewhere, not at the scene of the shooting. A 45 caliber Henry repeating rifle, a 22 caliber Marlin rifle, and a 30 caliber Enfield rifle. Now, CNN has been reporting that police did recover 3 weapons, 2 handguns, and a semi-automatic rifle, and that those guns had been purchased by Lanza's mother, Nancy Lanza. That Nancy Lanza, from the time that she knew her, she was a stay-at-home mom, and that she had seen her a couple of months ago. The family was described as not being very social, being very quiet. Wolf?
All right, Mary, thanks very much. Sanjay Gupta is here, our chief medical correspondent. You just came back from a crisis center here, Sanjay. Tell us what you saw. What's the single most important thing you would be doing right now?
Certainly trying to establish whether or not this gentleman had anyone act in consort with him, and attempting to determine specifically how he was able to gain access to this school. And we do have some information regarding the access issue, but
there's a big question as to why this school, why this particular school. Well, it appears that the mother, according to this source, was not a teacher at the school. She may have had a minor role, a substitute or an aide. They're still looking into what she did there, but she was definitely not an on-staff teacher, according to this source. From everything law enforcement has seen so far, the alleged shooter acted alone. Also, we're being told by investigator Soledad that the mom, again, not clear whether she was a substitute or whether she may have been unemployed, but it doesn't seem, at least not right now, that financial issues played any sort of a role in what happened or why it happened. The source also said there was a question of identification. Initially, the brother, Ryan Lanza, had been identified as the potential shooter, but apparently we were told that by authorities that the alleged shooter, Adam Lanza, did not have any identification on him belonging to his brother.
So we begin today with what we know so far about this school shooting. All the victims have now been removed from the school. They've been identified. Postmortems have been done. Sources told investigators that the alleged shooter, Adam Lanza, was involved in an altercation at Sandy Hook Elementary School with 4 adults on Thursday, and that 3 of those adults were killed on Friday. But we just heard an update a moment ago coming to us from a law enforcement source where he said that they had no information, in fact, about a confrontation. So that is some contradictory information about what happened there. We also know that Lanza supposedly tried to buy a gun at a sporting goods store near Newtown on Tuesday. He was unsuccessful. No details at this point, though, on why exactly he was unsuccessful. He lived alone with his mother, Nancy, who he killed before he went on that rampage at the school. His mother was not a teacher, we now know, at the school, but she may have had some kind of a role at the school as a substitute teacher or possibly an aide. Lanza did not have his brother Ryan's identification on him when, in fact, his body was found. That was other contradictory information that we were hearing yesterday. So all of this, at this point, leaves us with many more questions and answers. Trying to piece together really what is a horrific puzzle. What exactly happened and why did it happen, to give us a better understanding of how it went down on Friday. Let's get to CNN's Josh Lenz. He's got a virtual look at this elementary school. Josh?
Yeah, hi again, Soledad. Folks, there's a lot of information about this horror coming at you today, bombarding you. It can be a lot. What I want to tell you right now is that there are a few very specific questions that I can drill down for you that will not only help show you what investigators need to learn here, but will also potentially have repercussions for schools around the country in terms of security systems. Let's zoom into this map so you're seeing it more closely. This is a 3D look at this school itself. And as you look at it, keep in mind it has about 600 students total, and it has about 50 members of the faculty. Now, authorities have told us, have said, that this entire thing is now a crime scene. They said they're scouring the entire building right here, and in the words of police, each and every car is being investigated as well. We don't know exactly what they're looking for, but I want to trace you through a few steps here. We now know that the day before this happened, this gunman went to that school, had an altercation with 4 adults. The next day, came back, killed 3 of them. That's according to a law enforcement source with knowledge of the investigation. So exactly what happened there, whether it could have presented any warning signs, very important. Next thing for you to know, police have said today that they believe they got the first 911 call at around 9:30 a.m. Now, each minute, each fraction of a minute in a case like this is very important, and here's why. As we understand it, the security system at this school involving locking down of doors gets turned on at 9:30 a.m. So, was this shooter in there before or after that security system was turned on? Well, the authorities say he did have to break his way in. So how do you do that? If the security system's on, how does a person with multiple guns break his way into a school without anyone noticing or potentially setting off an alarm? Key question right there. Next thing for you to know, there are some shattered windows around this school, which might give you an answer to the previous question, but police said not so fast. When authorities were called to the school yesterday, they needed to burst their way in multiple units, and that could be, quite possibly is the reason that windows have been burst open. So where exactly, let's zoom in one more time, where exactly was the gunman in this parking lot or around the school in advance as people were coming in? How early did he get there? What time did he physically enter the building with respect to when that security system was turned on? And how did he do it? All of these are new central questions about the timeline of what has happened based on what the authorities are telling us today. Now, we do believe that the shooting itself took place in one corner of the school, one general area of the school, so we don't know what other evidence they might find in all the cars and throughout the parking lot, throughout the building. We do know that they're scouring it for absolutely anything. So Soledad, those are some of the key questions we're looking for answers to right now, hopefully in the next few days.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I'm going to tell you where there's some conflicting information to that, Josh, is that when we heard our final press conference, there was no information, we were told by the state police, about a confrontation. So we've now heard both versions of that, some saying that there was an altercation or there was no confrontation. Josh Liz with an update on some of the questions that they're hoping to be able to answer as this investigation goes along. I thank you. One thing that they have told us in the last hour is that there was no confrontation. There was some word that, in fact, the alleged shooter, Adam Lanza, had a confrontation at the school in the days before the shooting, and that somehow that would be linked to the shooting. We were told, in fact, by Lieutenant Vance with the state police that he had no information about any confrontation. That was at a press conference that he wrapped up roughly 40 minutes ago. The medical examiner said that everybody was shot with the same rifle, which would be, I guess, the Bushmaster. So give us some more information about the Bushmaster 223 semi-automatic rifle.
That certainly changes the facts in this case. Obviously, the Bushmaster is typically used in a longer range shooting. It has more accuracy from a distance. It's odd that he would take the long gun into the school because he could do just as much damage with the pistols.
But in this instance, we're talking about a couple of pistols, aren't we?
Yeah.
There was a rifle, a loaded rifle on the backseat of the car. It doesn't appear to have been used.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody. We've been updating you with the very latest as we continue to get updates from law enforcement officials. One thing that they have told us in the last hour is that there was no confrontation. There was some word that, in fact, the alleged shooter, Adam Lanza, had a confrontation at the school in the days before the shooting, and that somehow that would be linked to the shooting. We were told, in fact, by Lieutenant Vance with the state police that he had no information about any confrontation. That was at a press conference that he wrapped up roughly 40 minutes ago or so. Adam Lanza allegedly targeted kindergartners and first graders, is what we now know. Up to 6 guns involved. He also dressed up in a military-style vest and black fatigues, as Alex described. Authorities say they found 3 guns near Lanza's body in a school classroom. All 3 guns were registered to his mother who was also found dead in her home. Investigators recovered 3 other rifles. It's unclear at this point exactly where those weapons were found. We want to get to Mike Bouchard. He's a former ATF assistant director in Washington, D.C. Mike, we know that you supervise the ATF's response to a tragic killing spree about a decade ago, a story I covered a lot, the Washington, D.C. Beltway snipers. So unfortunately, this is something you know a lot about. I want you to walk me through some of these weapons. In the press conference, the medical examiner said that everybody was shot with the same rifle, which would be, I guess, the Bushmaster. So give us some more information about the Bushmaster 223 semi-automatic rifle.
That certainly changes the facts in this case. Obviously, the Bushmaster is typically used in a longer range shooting. It has more accuracy from a distance. It's odd that he would take the long gun into the school because he could do just as much damage with the pistols.